President Trump says he'll send more money to Argentina on top of the $40 billion if they need it. According to Trump, America's got plenty to spare. Some say we've never been more generous. The checkbook, he added, is always open, which is generally what checkbooks do, although this one apparently opens wider for foreign countries than its own American citizens. Let's take a look.
Results from the Argentina election, it looks like Milei's party.
Wow, what a great question that is. I love that question because that was a big win in Argentina. I want to congratulate the victor, and he was a big victor, and he had a lot of help from us. He had a lot of help. I gave him an endorsement, very strong endorsement, and it was really unexpected to have a victory of that. Some people thought it would be hard to win, and not only did he win by a lot. So Argentina, that was a great thing. And I give Scott and I give Jameis and everybody, Marco, a lot of credit for that because, you know, we are sticking with a lot of the countries in South America. We're focused very much on South America, and we're getting a real strong handle on South America in a lot of ways, including the fact that we don't want their drugs. We don't want drugs coming into our country, and you're seeing that.
Trump emphasized that he's ready to help Argentina with whatever they need, which consisted of saying, yeah, we would consider it when asked about sending additional billions of dollars. The White House has not explained where this money is coming from, but Trump said America is very rich and that nobody helps other countries like I do. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. His team is sending tens of billions overseas to bail out his far-right ally, Javier Milei. And conveniently, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's hedge fund friends who are heavily invested in Argentina, while claiming there's no money for Americans. Because while Trump is writing blank checks to Argentina, Speaker Mike Johnson says contingency funds aren't available legally to prevent 42 million Americans from losing food assistance programs. That's a little suspicious to me. Let's look at the clip.
Yes.
Contingency fund or ensure those benefits get paid. Do you think the administration should tap into those funds or find other sources in order to ensure that millions of Americans do get paid?
Well, look, I can tell you the administration has worked, as you all know, very creatively and very hard to limit the pain on the Americans because of the Democrats' shutdown. And the SNAP benefits is a unique situation. I got a summary of the whole legal analysis, and it certainly looks legitimate to me. The contingency funds are not legally available to cover the benefits right now. The reason is because it's a finite source of funds. It was appropriated by Congress, and if they transfer funds from these other sources, it pulls it away immediately from school meals and infant formula. So it's a trade-off. There has to be a pre-existing appropriation for the contingency fund to be used, and Democrats blocked that appropriation when they rejected the clean continuing resolution. So the way to make this stop immediately is we just need a handful. We need 5 more Democrats in the Senate to do the right thing, wake up and say, I'm going to say no to the Marxist far left pressure, and I'm going to do what's right by the people, the 42 million Americans in this country who rely upon this essential nutrition assistance. Am I going to starve my constituents or am I going to appease the Marxists? That is their actual calculation, whether they say all of that out loud or not. Everybody in this room knows exactly what's going on. And it's so infuriating to us. The best way for SNAP benefits to be paid on time is for the Democrats to end their shutdown. And that could happen right now if they would show some spine. Yes.
Sources familiar with federal budgets say $40 billion doesn't just materialize out of thin air. But that didn't stop this money from setting a new benchmark in fiscal priorities. Budget analysts across the country are reportedly reassessing their math, with one anonymous economist saying it's hard to compete with Argentina, apparently. The administration also noted that U.S. farmers devastated by Trump's tariff war should just deal with it, which is encouraging news for both Argentina and anyone wondering where America ranks on the priority list. It remains unclear what the actual policy goal is here, but if the goal was to prove that Republicans will move heaven and earth to bail out wealthy hedge fund investors and foreign political allies while telling Americans there's nothing available, then the mission appears to be accomplished. And speaking of priorities, Republicans can also find $40 billion for a country that's defaulted on its debt 9 times, money that will benefit Treasury Secretary Bessent's friends at BlackRock, Fidelity, and PIMCO, but they can't find a dime to feed starving Americans. We're going to unpack this in just a second, but quick reminder, hit the subscribe to support. And okay, back to it. Let me get this straight. We have money for Argentina, a whole lot of it in the billions, with more available if needed. But SNAP benefits, food stamps for hungry families, Johnson says the contingency funds are not legally available to cover the benefits right now. The legal analysis, it seems, only applies when Americans need help. But the best part is these aren't regular budget constraints. There is a very, very good chance that this is just Republicans choosing not to help Americans. Money is only available when it's for feeding 42 million people, including children, seniors, and disabled Americans. But Argentina needs a bailout. Here's 40 billion. Need more? We would consider it. So the president of the United States is ready to send unlimited money to a foreign government that's defaulted 9 times while his own farmers are losing generational land and being told to deal with it. And 42 million Americans are about to lose food assistance because suddenly there's no legal authority to help them. That's where we're at. Fresh off of his pledge to Argentina and his refusal to fund SNAP benefits, food assistance programs, we need to talk about New Jersey's Republican gubernatorial candidate, my favorite, Jack Ciattarelli, because this guy has earned a reputation for being called the Trump of Trenton, and his reputation and his record keep getting worse.
I support the governor's cancellation of the ARC project, and I'll tell you why. If New Jersey was going to spend $3 billion, along with all the federal monies, to help people get into Manhattan, where they buy their newspaper, where they buy their bagel, where they buy their lunch, where they buy their dinner if they work late, where they buy a gift for their spouse if it's an anniversary or a birthday. That's all economic stimulus for New York City.
So Ciattarelli opposed helping New Jersey commuters with critical infrastructure back in 2011, arguing against a Hudson Tunnel project because he didn't want to provide economic stimulus to New York City. Think about that. This is so insane. He was willing to make life harder for thousands of New Jersey workers, people who commute to New York City every day for their jobs, just to spite New York. He'd rather New Jersey commuters sit in traffic, waste hours of their lives, and struggle with crumbling infrastructure than to see any benefit go to the region's economic engine. He was literally willing to hurt the exact communities he's now asking to represent to stick it to the neighboring city that employs them. New Jersey workers don't stop needing to get to their jobs just because Ciattarelli has a grudge against New York City. And this is just the tip of the iceberg with this guy. Let's not forget Ciattarelli's past involvement in the opioid crisis, profiting off of pain and deaths while communities suffered. And his recent rhetoric at rallies has been even more disturbing. We've covered it. People pushing to end marriage equality, making anti-Semitic remarks, and platforming extremists like Jack Posobiec, who was literally spouting creepy authoritarian garbage down in Wildwood with a Charlie Kirk memorial flag hanging in the background.
We are coming. So you better keep your money clean, because we're going to follow the money every single place it goes. And you got these people saying they're going to flee the country. Well, I'll tell you something. You can run, but you can't hide. You can't.
Lock them up! 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 Lock them up!
Letitia James found out about that, didn't she?
So New Jersey Republicans want you to elect a guy who's willing to screw commuters just out of spite, a guy who profited off of the opioid epidemic and wants to roll back marriage equality, put you guys in traffic, lean into anti-Semitism, and platform far-right extremists. That's the Republican vision for New Jersey. But it gets even worse, because while Trump is spending billions overseas and refusing to feed Americans, his ICE agents are now detaining U.S. citizens. Over 170 of them, according to a new investigation. Often through, racial profiling of Latinos. And when these American citizens assert their rights, ICE agents are telling them, you have no rights. The New York Times just published a devastating editorial documenting how Trump's immigration crackdown has become a campaign of racial discrimination. And as the Times writes, being Latino in the United States should not be a crime. But that's exactly what's happening. Federal agents are rounding up people with brown skin, catching both U.S. citizens and legal immigrants in their dragnet. The paper documents have masked how officials have shattered car windows, pulled out drivers, leaving children sobbing in back seats alone, and how Latinos are now afraid to speak Spanish or listen to Spanish music in public. Think about that. American citizens are living in fear of a government that is sworn to protect their liberties. And here's what makes it even more insidious. Videos show that many federal agents believe the burden of proof is on the Latinos to show that they are here legally, not on the government officials who are randomly accusing them of a crime. That's a complete inversion of how justice is supposed to work in America. As the Times writes, what separates democracy from authoritarianism is the rule of law and lawlessness, and a decent society from an indecent one is not just the goal, but the process. Let's watch that clip.
Democrats are investigating the arrests of U.S. citizens after a ProPublica investigation showed that ICE has detained more than 170 citizens in recent raids. And the New York Times, citing video of federal agents tackling people and even telling a group of Latinos, including a U.S. citizen, they have no rights. This morning, the Times editorial board published an op-ed titled, "Being Latino in the United States Should Not Be a Crime," writing that the Trump administration's immigration crackdown has become a campaign of discrimination against Latinos with tactics that violate both law and human decency.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.